Good morning, children. Today we are going to deal with Keeping Quiet, a poem by Pablo Neruda. This is there in class 12th in your book Flamingo. If you know about Pablo Neruda, he was born in 1904 and lived till 1973. And he was one of the most celebrated poets of the 70s. He also won the Nobel Prize for English Literature in 1971. Basically, he was from the country of Chile. Besides being a poet, he was also a diplomat. And you'll see his full name was Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basalto. Pablo Neruda always wrote in green ink, and I suppose green will suggest something to you. That he was very much concerned about the earth, the planet we live in. Pablo Neruda in this poem tries to tell us how we can live in harmony with the earth and all the other citizens on this planet Earth. Keeping Quiet is one such poem. Before going through the poem, let me just ask you a question. How many of you have played hide and seek in your early childhood? I think all of you must have played. What was the mode of playing it? It was a multiplayer game. One was the seeker who was given a place. He went somewhere, hid, closed his eyes and counted. And the others, in the meantime of his counting, they went and hid somewhere. And the seeker had to find. We are not concerned with how he found them or not, but we are just concerned with what he did to start the game. He closed his eyes, and after closing his eyes, he counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and so on, or in multiple ways. Say some people counted by tens, 10, 20, 30, or in Hindi, some of you count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, pure 100 and so on, and thereafter. That counting suggests something. What is the need to count? The need to count is that we create a specific time, moment, at the end of which all of the others will do some activity. This is what is suggested by counting. Coming to this poem, Keeping Quiet, Pablo Neruda discusses the need of maintaining peace and silence. And more so, maintaining peace and silence. To do so, what you have to do is, you have to introspect. Introspect is to look within yourself, self-examination. That is, we have to look for the cause of everything inside us, and if we try to find it out, we will possibly be in peace and harmony with all the other people in the world. So he suggests that in order to maintain peace and harmony, it is required to stop and introspect ourselves. It reflects of patience and perseverance as important aspects of human character. This poem, as you know, does not have a fixed rhyme scheme. It is written in free verse or blank verse, what we call it. The first stanza of the poem says, or if you just see the title of the poem, Keeping Quiet, what does that suggest? Not just putting the fingers on your lips and staying quiet. When you stay quiet, your mind does not stay quiet. Your mind is continuously at work. It thinks. Whenever your mouth is not speaking, your mind starts to think. That is a process of meditation. You have to meditate, you have to think. So he says, keep quiet, think. I remember in my early childhood days, often we were given this punishment. Put a finger on your lips, sit back straight and close your eyes. So this is one of the most common punishments in school. The first stanza says, now we'll count up to 12 and we'll all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. What the poet tells you? Now we will count up to 12 and we'll all keep still. The poet says we'll count till 12, and by the end of the count till 12, all of us will stand still. हम एकदम शांत हो जाएंगे. For once on the face of the earth, just try to imagine that all the people on the planet Earth, by one count, they stay still. Let us not speak in any language. That will not be speaking in any language, whether even it is the body language, not even in body language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. That we'll do no physical activity, no verbal activity, nothing of that sort. We'll just be still and quiet. If you see in this stanza, the poet has made use of alliterations. We will, at the W sound is repeated time and again. So the poet has used alliterations to a good extent. Apart from that, there is assonance, use of vowel sound O and E. Now we'll count to 12, not move our arms so much. There is anaphors, 2 consecutive lines starting with the word let. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. This is anaphora. Then there is alliteration. We will, as I told you, if you see the next stanza, it would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Try see, alliterations once again. It would be an exotic moment, a very happy, strange kind of a moment. That the world is all still, no movement, without rush, without any sound of machines, without any movement, rush. We would all be together in sudden strangeness. That all of us will be together in silence, in stillness. Now he tells us to think over what we have done to ourselves and what we have done to the earth. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. Those fishermen who go fishing, they fish for their daily needs. But as you read in class 11, that people have done fishing to such an extent because fishes are one of the richest source of proteins, that a day will come that fishes will become extinct. People have become money-minded. They are overfishing. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Man gathering salt, what happens? The man who gathers salt puts his hand into the salt to collect salt, filter it. What happens at the end of the day? If you see, the hands of that person who was gathering salt becomes sore. It becomes sour. The skin is perforated. The skin is harmed. And it hurts badly. So he would look at his hurt hands. That what have I done to myself? In the next stanza, he says, those who prepare wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no trap with death. In this stanza, a rather longer one than the first and the second one, he says, those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors. The people who are behind all these wars, wars with gas and fire, bullets and bombs, victory with no survivors. If I tell you, if there is a war between two countries, though one country may win, but the loss is on both sides. And what is the great use of that victory, where you have victims on all sides? So victory with no survivors. What they would do, they will think that what they have done to their brothers in the other countries, They have harmed them, they have killed them, and they will regret their actions. They will put on clean clothes, that is, they'll regret and walk about with their brothers in shade doing nothing. Cross-border brotherhood. This will come into action. They'll think that all the people around on this planet are their brothers and we should not go on to harm them. But at the same time, the poet also tells you, Neruda tells you, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. He says, I do not want inactivity because life is what is it is about. What is life all about? Life, dear students, is all about movement. Life is all about progress. Life is all about development. If we just keep still, sit still, we will not progress, we will not develop. The world is not going to make any inventions, discoveries, or any advancement. The poet does not tell us that I want total inactivity, I want no progress, I want no development. He says, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. Life is about progress, life is about movement, life is about development. So we need to develop, we need to move, we need to make inventions. At the same time, he says, I want no truck with death. This is one part where question often comes in examinations. What does the poet say by saying, I want no truck with death? Here, truck refers to connection. That he says, I want no connection with death. Connection with death, stillness is equal to death. Laziness, lethargy is death. He wants progress, but a proactive, positive progress for mankind. And he says, I do not want any connectivity with death. Further in the fourth stanza, he says, if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and threatening ourselves with death. Again he talks of death. And why? Here he gives you another reason. If we were not so single-minded. By single-minded, he tries to tell us that we people have become selfish. We just are concerned about movement, about development and progress of ourselves. We do not take the full society or the nation and move together. So he says, if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could what? Could keep quiet and meditate and think and introspect. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness. That on the whole, we fail to understand ourselves, the purpose of our being, why God has sent us to the earth. And ultimately, we do fail to understand ourselves, of never understanding ourselves, and threaten ourselves with death. That we are calling our end closer. So he says that we will sit, we will think how selfish we have become and abandon this selfish for the good of the world. In the last stanza, he says, perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. The finest of the examples he gives is perhaps the earth can teach us, this planet Earth. As you know, out of all the planets in this universe, the earth only supports life. That is why it is called the green planet or the planet with life. It is one of the finest examples. He says, perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Have you seen or sometimes just thought about the movement of the earth? The phenomenon of day and night. when evening comes, when night comes, everything seems to be dead. No movement, all still. But after that instance of death, that is night, comes morning, which is full of life, livelihood, life, activity. So the earth is the finest examples. Everything dead and comes to life once again in the morning. That is what Shelley in the Ode to the West Wind says, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Night is like the winter and morning the spring. So the earth gives us this example. The earth is also one of the finest examples of patience, that it is bearing the burden of all of us, we selfish people, and still holding us onto it, not throwing us out. So we need to understand from the earth that how the earth gives us life. It is because of the earth that we are alive. Possibly if the greenery on the earth goes around and off, possibly we'll also be extinct. So especially faced in this era of pandemic, this poem by Pablo Neruda becomes very much material for us. We need to think. The government is time and again telling us to maintain social distancing, to stay at home. Think what we are doing. Possibly this corona pandemic will go off, but we fail to understand. So this is one poem which tells us that how we can live in harmony, in consonance with the earth. Even this year in 2020, there was a question asked, what can the earth teach us? The earth can teach us how to live in consonance and harmony with all around. The earth can teach us from its phenomenon of day and night, that how when everything seems dead and later on it proves to be alive. So from this poem you can see that Pablo Neruda gives us a food for thought, that how we should act and live in harmony with all our brothers on the planet Earth. And by counting up to 12, he says, now I will count up to 12, you keep quiet and I'll go. That is, my work is finished. I have given you a food for thought. You sit and think what is to be done, how it is to be done, how we people can live in consonance and harmony with the earth and all our brothers, and he will go. So this is the poem, Keeping Quiet Before You. I hope you understood this poem. For rest of question answers and other explanations stanza wise, you can see this presentation on our website, csdavps.motihari. Thank you for watching. Thank you.